Board games. Growing up, I rarely played board games and instead mostly played on my Wii, at the park, or with Pokemon cards. Psych! Nobody knew how to play with those things. I mean, they were cool to look at though. Those activities were things that I could pretty much do at any time, and the ease of access is what really made those activities stand out in my childhood compared to others. Now, even though I only played board games occasionally, I still love playing them with my friends and family whenever I got the chance. However, some of these experiences were less interesting than others, which is why, in addition to reviewing each game, I'll also be putting them on a tier list. FYI, I'm only going to be discussing board games that I have played as a kid, and if you've played a game that wasn't reviewed, then, I don't know, deal with it.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Okay, first let's start off with chess. Now, there's some people who believe that chess isn't just a board game, but it's a sport. Before half the world goes up in arms, I just want to say that I personally feel that chess is a lot like Russia geographically. Is it in Europe? Is it in Asia? The world asked. I don't know, the world replied, and now it's just there. I honestly feel like chess is just as much a board game as it is a sport. By the current existing definition, I don't think chess qualifies as a sport, but I still feel like it should be looked at as a sport just because of the sheer amount of concentration and mental effort it involves at a competitive level. Even though I think highly of chess and chess players, I was never good at chess, nor did I like the game. I always felt like it was too much work to be good and didn't want to put that much work into something I really didn't feel passionate about. So after my first 2 weeks of chess lessons, I just straight dipped. But seriously though, I feel that chess is a really well designed sport game, and the rules allow it to be played in a different way each and every time. Which is why I think it's understandable why chess players get so addicted to playing. I'll put this in the B tier because it's a really well-made board game that I really didn't like playing as a kid. Next, let's look at the one, the only, Monopoly, the literal exact opposite of chess. While chess depicts the conquest of kingdoms in medieval Europe, Monopoly has the Pringles guy in a suit. While chess can last hours at a time, Monopoly can... Oh wait, never mind. While chess is a game that has stood by tradition in not changing its gameplay, Monopoly has this. When all is said and all is done, Monopoly really gets a bad rap. In fact, when determining what constitutes a board game versus a sport, Monopoly was still somehow getting dunked on. Yo, Cambridge is straight savage. I think I'm in the minority when I say that Monopoly is actually a pretty good game. The one thing people hate about the game is the time needed to play it. But if played the right way, Monopoly shouldn't take that long. Special rules that artificially increase the amount of money in circulation is what makes the 2-hour adventure into a 7-hour nightmare. Stuff like getting $1,000 for rolling doubles or getting extra money when landing on free parking. Also, people are sometimes very afraid to take risks and make deals, even though it is encouraged to do so. How can you not negotiate when the subtitle of the game is the fast dealing property trading game? That being said, I do know that people are sometimes reserved when making such trades, as they don't know which deals to take, avoid, and offer. As a Monopoly veteran myself, here is a 60-second primer on negotiation and how to win at Monopoly. Number 1, buy everything you land on at the start of the game. Number 2, if you and an opponent share one of the same color set and there's one more up for grabs, don't take it. 3, the greens and utilities are the worst sets to invest in. 4, railroads are only valuable in bulk. 5, once your opponent's sets have been developed, jail is the place to be. 6, when making an offer, always try to pitch immunities and cash over properties. 7, boardwalk and parkways are greatly overvalued, and the reds and oranges are greatly undervalued. 8. The ideal strat is to have 2 color sets, one in either the browns, light blues, pinks, or oranges, and the other in the reds, yellows, greens, or blues. The former allows for a sustainable flow of cash. To develop the latter, a power move to bankrupt opponents. 9. When mortgaging properties, always start in order of least to most amount of revenue generated. 10. When developing on houses, cap at 4 houses per property so that there are fewer houses to buy overall. That's why even though Monopoly gets a bad rap, I think it should go into the A tier. What's up? No, I haven't seen the Miss Monopoly commercial. What's that?
A few moments later.
Inspiring young entrepreneurs everywhere.
Okay, so Monopoly is now F tier, unless I get 20 grand in cash. Hasbro, wink wink. Okay, so a slightly less controversial board game is Apples to Apples. Honestly, this is a pretty fun board game if you understand the references. The usual hand of 7 cards includes 2 throwaway cards that you don't understand whatsoever, 4 cards that have no significance to the topic at hand, and 1 card that you've been saving for the last 5 turns. The 2 main ways to play are with explanations or without explanations. Every time I play, I make sure to disable explanations so that the cards are given anonymously. If you play with explanations, well, you better be a smooth talker and prepare to BS the hell out of everything. So, Billy Bob, you put down oxygen and had to give something that was green.
Well, I mean, I feel like oxygen is really like reminiscent of the whole green movement. You know, we should really try to, drum up a lot of oxygen so that our future generations can have a nice living experience.
One thing I learned from watching tournament poker at 2 in the morning, you don't play your cards, you play your opponent. Pam Beesly, The Office. The opponent in this game is the judge, and they can come in 3 types: type logic, type humor, and type random. When dealing with a type logic, you don't have a lot of flexibility, so you are basically wholly dependent on your cards and are using some clever or out-of-the-box reasoning. When fighting type humors, make sure you define which type of humor that they are specifically into: dark humor, light humor, decaf humor, espresso humor, and try to appeal to that specific type. Finally, with randoms, make sure to just put down your throwaway cards, because if you don't know how the judge will select their favorite card, then there's really no point in trying. Overall, this game is really solid, and it has been a go-to of mine for a long time, which is why I'm putting this into S tier. It's such an original game, and it truly is one of a kind. Cards Against Humanity. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I have played Cards Against Humanity, and for those of you non-sinners out there, it's a much more perverted, twisted, and darker version of Apples to Apples that only the vile and irresponsible would play. That being said, this game goes directly into A tier because its setup with the black cards is so damn funny, and the additional packs for purchase can make it into a super fun experience. Okay, so next we have Scrabble. That word game, as many of you would call it. But no, Scrabble isn't just a word game, it's a game of adaptation. You see, the scoring system in Scrabble isn't based off of how advanced or flashy your word may be. In fact, many times, shorter and more common words, if placed correctly, can win you the game. Here's a 45-second primer on how to win Scrabble. Number 1. Pay attention to where bonus squares are and where they are in relation to the rest of the board. This is what makes the difference between a flashy player and a good player. I've seen people score 50 points off the word Joe over people who scored 14 points off the word gastric. Now, who is Joe, you ask? No, stop right there. We don't do that here. This channel is cool. You can relax. 2. Using all 7 tiles in a word gives you a 50-point bonus, known as a bingo. 3. Any tile still on your rack at the end of the game will be deducted from your total score, so get rid of high-value tiles like Q, Z, X, J, and K. 4. There are approximately 100 two-letter words that are really useful in making a lot of parallel plays, words that intersect with more than one letter of another word. 5. When in the lead, try to play defensively and block opponents from high-value bonus squares. Overall, Scrabble is a pretty fun game, and it doesn't take that much time to play. Because of that, we'll be putting that in the A tier. Next up, we have Exploding Kittens. This is a game many of you may not be familiar with, but it's actually a really fun game. Basically, it's like Russian roulette with cards, and there's a bit of strategy involved. The game revolves around risk, where the goal isn't to win, but it's to not lose. The game can be boiled down to a few simple points. Don't draw an Exploding Kitten card, and if you do, you are out unless you have a Diffuse card, which basically acts like an antidote. And there's a bunch of other cards like attacks, skips, nopes, favors, see the futures, 2 or 3 of a kinds, but they all work to make sure that you don't draw an Exploding Kitten and your opponents do. Here's a trivial tidbit: this game was actually one of the most funded Kickstarters of all time. Because of its unique playing style and well-designed mechanics, I'm putting Exploding Kittens into the S tier. Next up, playing cards. I probably know only like 7 games that can be played with playing cards. Rummy, Crazy Eights, Go Fish, Eurez, War, Communism, and President. Now, there are a lot of different games that can be played with these cards, which is something that I really admire. While most games may only have 1 or 2 fun game modes, the versatility of playing cards is what makes them so popular. Some of these games that I know how to play get stale real fast, but other games can get super hype. For me, President, Communism, and Eurez are favorites. Because cards offer a diverse array of games, but there are also a lot of stale and really slow-moving games, I'm putting cards into the B tier. The next game is Pictionary, which is a good game idea in theory, but puts too much faith in humanity. F tier, end of story. I mean, come on, how is anybody gonna get bad breath? Bruh. I bet that a solid 75% of people who play this game wouldn't be able to show bad breath in the time given. Simply put, I think it's a good game, but it's way too trusting on the intellect of our future generations.
Pocket like it's hot.
Oh my god!
Hot.
Fortnite!
Alright, moving on to Sorry.
Sorry. Go through. Sorry. It's the game of sorry. First you're way ahead, then you get bumped way back.
What you say? That you...
So shake a leg, and you'll get home first. The game of sorry.
This game is a classic. It's got action, it's got suspense, and it's got moxie. This game is a star, and it sells like hotcakes. That's why this game cruises it right into S tier. Wait, what does this say? Well, I guess Sorry's in B tier. The decision to move Sorry from its post in S tier to B tier was not an easy one. As one of my childhood favorites, Sorry does have a special place in my heart, but the game gets old real quick, and after a while it grows stale. I think it's a good game overall though, and it certainly does have a lot of fun aspects through the switches with the number 11 cards and the Sorry cards. So there you have it. All of the board games that I personally played as a kid, ranked and reviewed. So, in conclusion, Mario Kart is the wave. If you stuck through this whole video, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing and leave a comment down below about what board game was your favorite growing up. As always, make someone's day today.